Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast. It's great to have you here for another deep dive into the unexpected. Today we're going to look at something, well, something you probably haven't given much thought to, but we're going to reveal its hidden depths. We're talking about clothes hangers.
Yes, clothes hangers. These unassuming objects. Well, they have a history and even a cultural impact. That might surprise you.
I have to admit, when I first heard we were doing a deep dive on clothes hangers, I thought, really? What could be so interesting about that? But once I started looking into it, I was amazed.
It's one of those things we completely take them for granted. We use them every day. But how often do we stop and think about where they came from, how they've changed over time, or even the role they've played in society?
Exactly. So let's start at the beginning. Think about your own closet for a moment. It's probably packed with clothes, all neatly hanging on. Well, hangers, of course. But did you know the wire hanger we're so familiar with? It wasn't invented until 1903.
It's true. It's a relatively recent invention. Before that, people used all sorts of methods to hang their clothes. Fabric loops sewn into garments, chains, even elaborate contraptions. Did you know that Thomas Jefferson, at his home Monticello, had a special device built into his closet, specifically for hanging clothes? It wasn't a wire hanger, of course, but it shows that even back then, people cared about keeping their clothes neat and organized.
It's fascinating to think about how something so simple, so essential to our daily life, didn't even exist for centuries. So what prompted the invention of the wire hanger?
Well, the story goes that in 1903, an employee at a wire coat hook factory named Albert J. Parkhouse arrived at work one day, and all of the coat hooks were taken. Frustrated, he bent a piece of wire into the shape we now know as the clothes hanger. Necessity truly is the mother of invention.
It's amazing how such a simple solution, born out of a moment of frustration, revolutionized the way we store our clothes. But it wasn't just a matter of bending a wire. The design evolved over time, right?
Absolutely. Just a few years later, in 1906, a men's clothing retailer in Grand Rapids, Michigan, became the first to display clothes on hangers. Can you imagine a clothing store without hangers? It seems unthinkable now. And even more interesting, some of those original hangers are still on display today at the Meyer May House, a Frank Lloyd Wright design home in Grand Rapids. Talk about a piece of retail history.
That's incredible. So from a simple wire bent out of frustration to a key element of retail display, the humble hanger was making its mark.
And the evolution continued. In 1932, Schuyler C. Hewlett patented a design that included cardboard tubes on the upper and lower parts of the wire. This wasn't just for aesthetics. Those tubes were meant to prevent wrinkles and keep clothes looking their best.
It's those little details that make all the difference. And then, of course, we started seeing different materials, wood, plastic. What drove those changes?
We'll consider the different functions and aesthetics each material brings. Wooden hangers, often seen as more elegant and durable, became associated with higher-end clothing. They added a touch of class to a closet. Plastic hangers, on the other hand, offered affordability and mass production, making them accessible to everyone. And then you have those wonderful padded hangers, designed specifically for delicate garments to prevent those pesky shoulder dents.
It's like the clothes hanger adapted to meet the needs of different types of clothing and different consumer preferences.
Yeah.
And speaking of consumer culture, here's something that might surprise you. Clothes hangers are collectible.
That's right. People collect all sorts of things. And for some, it's those vintage hangers from bygone eras that hold a certain charm. For example, a 1950s Butlins hanger from a chain of British holiday camps, sold for over £10 in 2006.
Wow. I never would have thought of hangers as collectibles. What is it about those vintage hangers that makes them so appealing? Is it the nostalgia factor, the connection to a particular time period, or something else? I guess it's all about finding those hidden stories, those unexpected connections to the past, even in the most mundane of objects. And speaking of hidden stories, before we go any further down this fascinating rabbit hole, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on any of our deep dives into the unexpected. Here on Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast, we've got some truly intriguing topics coming your way.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? These simple objects, they become vessels of memory, connecting us to different times and places. It's a reminder that history isn't just about grand events and famous figures. It's also woven into the fabric of our everyday lives.
It's like holding a piece of the past in your hand.
Yeah.
And speaking of holding things, let's move beyond the closet and talk about the hanger's unexpected versatility. I mean, we all know those wire hangers are the ultimate DIY tool. From impromptu antennas to makeshift curtain rods, they've gotten us out of more than a few jams.
Oh, absolutely. Wire hangers have become synonymous with resourcefulness and ingenuity. It's that MacGyver spirit. using what's on hand to solve a problem creatively. And some of those uses, like unlocking car doors, have become almost legendary.
Right, and who hasn't used a hanger to fish something out from under the couch or behind a piece of furniture? It's like the universal tool for retrieving lost items.
Mm.
But, thinking back to those old Blue Peter episodes, I remember them using wire coat hangers to make all sorts of things, like an advent crown. It's amazing how a simple object like that can spark so much creativity.
It speaks to the inherent flexibility of the design, those simple curves. They lend themselves to being reshaped and repurposed. But it also highlights a human characteristic, the desire to problem solve, to create, to make do with what we have.
It's like the hanger becomes an extension of our own ingenuity. But as we've seen, the hanger's story, it isn't all about resourcefulness and clever solutions. It also has a darker side, one that reflects some of society's most challenging issues. We can't ignore the hanger's association with unsafe abortions, a stark reminder of the consequences of restricting access to safe health care.
Yes, that's a crucial part of the hanger's story, and one that needs to be acknowledged. In this context, the hanger transcends its mundane purpose and becomes a powerful symbol. Its presence in pro-choice protests speaks volumes about the urgency and complexity of the issue.
It's a sobering thought. This everyday object, designed for a simple, practical task, takes on a weighty significance, becoming a symbol of desperation and a call for change.
And it reinforces how objects can become embedded in our cultural narratives, reflecting not just our creativity and resourcefulness, but also our struggles and the challenges we face as a society.
So the hanger isn't just about hanging clothes. It's a reflection of our values, our ingenuity, and even our social and political landscape. It's a microcosm of the human experience, woven into this seemingly simple object.
Precisely. It makes you wonder, what other everyday objects hold such hidden depths? What seemingly mundane items might we be taking for granted, not realizing the stories they could tell, the connections they reveal?
I love that thought. It's a challenge to look at our surroundings with fresh eyes, with a sense of curiosity and wonder. What about the toothbrush, the light bulb, the paperclip? Each one has its own story to tell, its own journey through time.
And by understanding those stories, we gain a richer understanding of our own history, our ingenuity, and our impact on the world.
It's like we're peeling back the layers, revealing the hidden connections between the objects we use every day and the broader sweep of history and culture.
And it makes you realize that the past isn't something distant and removed. It's present in the objects around us, waiting to be rediscovered and reinterpreted.
Yeah, it's like they're whispering their stories, if only we take the time to listen. And I have to say, after this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'll never look at a clothes hanger the same way again.
I doubt any of us will. It's amazing how something so ordinary can become extraordinary. When we take the time to explore its history and its impact, it makes you wonder what stories are hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered.
It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, more to explore, even in the seemingly mundane.
So the next time you reach for a clothes hanger, take a moment to consider its journey. From a simple piece of wire to a ubiquitous household object, a symbol of resourcefulness, and even a catalyst for important conversations, the humble clothes hanger has a tale to tell. What will you hear?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of clothes hangers, here on Tell Me More Stories Told This podcast. We hope you've enjoyed uncovering the hidden stories behind this everyday object.
And remember, there's always more to discover, more to question, more to learn, so keep those curiosity gears turning.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep telling those stories.